Hey, everybody. It is Tuesday, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Angela Ray Show. Hope that you all have had a great day. Get off as we always do with our Ray of Motivation moment. And so, my question for you all tonight is: are you reading the fine print? Are you reading the fine print? So, when I was very, very young, I think I was a teen, I started cooking very early, and I was a teen, and all of a sudden I decided I wanted to cook tacos at home. We had never had tacos at home. We had always eaten them out. So my parents bought the entire kit, the taco shells, we had the ground beef, the lettuce, the whole shebang. And so the first time I cooked them, I realized that um, the taco shells were stale. So we sent them back to the store. The second time that I cooked the tacos, we realized the taco shells were indeed stale. And after about the third time of trying to figure out what was going on with the stale tacos, I decided that I needed to read the back of the box because I was like, oh, I bet we're getting a bad batch. They're already expired and the store is just selling us expired product. And when I took a look at the back of the box, I realized that we were supposed to, or at least I was supposed to, put the taco shells in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes so that they were nice and crisp before serving. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where you aren't reading the fine print, where you are accusing someone of not holding up their end of the bargain, i.e., accusing the grocery store of selling bad taco shells? Just want to encourage you as you go through the rest of this week to definitely read the fine print. And that is your ray of motivation moment for this evening. So I am really excited about our guest for tonight. He is a stand up comedian, he is a writer, an actor, and he is the star of Comedy Central's Robbie. Please help me welcome Rory Scovel. Rory, how are you?
Hello, I am good. I'm still sane. I'm hanging on.
Okay,
I'm hanging on like all of us. Um,
right.
Figuring out the new system, the new way of everything. So yeah, I'm good. How are
So
you?
what's I'm doing good, like you, trying to figure out this new way of doing
this
life,
this new
everything
normal.
from yeah, hoping this is going to be a temporary normal. Although, just today I heard that there's I think a college in your hometown. Is Furman in your
Yeah,
hometown?
actually, I grew up maybe 5 minutes from Furman. My parents still live in that house. We're 5 minutes from there. Yeah.
Okay, I just heard that they were doing away with two of their sports programs permanently as a result of this new normal. So I was like, wow,
Yeah.
think things are
I think
very
my wife, Jordan, you just saw a second ago, she
different.
is her alma mater, Wittenberg in Ohio, is I think having to cut a lot of departments as well because of this, just to stay afloat and figure out where to move money around and stuff like that. It's strange. It's very strange.
Very strange indeed. Um, what's been your go-to kind of snack or activity during all this time of
Oh my
staying at
God.
home and sheltering in place?
You know what I started to do, which I'm actually very proud of. I wish I would have started this sooner, but I actually started intermittent fasting while I was home. And so I don't start eating anything until 11, and then I stop eating food at 7. And I know this is random and out of the blue from your question, but as soon as you said snacking, I was like, I should mention this. But for anybody who is like me and does not get as much physical activity as you want to or know that you should, I
Hmm.
gotta say, intermittent fasting is incredible.
Okay.
I feel so healthy. I have so much energy in that tiny gap of eating. It just motivates me to eat healthier because I'm usually a sugar like a holic. I'm so addicted to it. Um, my snack has been dark chocolate for sure. Dark chocolate bars that are broken up into squares, and for some reason, I convince myself like, oh, I'll just grab a square and then, one square it would be fine, but you have one and suddenly you're eating so many squares. So I feel like I'm fasting properly in a healthy way, and then I'm snacking like I'm 10 years old.
Well, dark chocolate is full of antioxidants. I mean,
Yes,
it's good for you.
in terms of chocolate, is definitely the healthiest version you're gonna get, for sure, for sure.
Well, yeah, I don't. Yeah, it definitely is. I haven't figured out what my go-to snack has been during this time. It's probably been whatever I can get in about 2 to 3 minutes, and I should
Right.
probably think about some intermittent fasting. When I have fasted like for an entire day, that
Yeah.
first day is rough. It's like the cravings, the headaches, but usually when I get over the hump of the first day, I do feel better.
Yeah.
Day 2 or 3, as long as I'm drinking water, but day two
Yeah.
or three, I feel pretty good.
Well, I think that's the weird benefit of it, is that it forces you to drink so much water to try to fill your stomach up and try to curb your appetite, that you end up properly hydrating. At least that's what I found for myself. Because I started off by just fasting for a full day, and I loved it. I got to the end of the day. I mean, it was tough, but I got to the end of the day, and it just felt so like calming, and I felt a sense of clarity. And I was talking to my wife about it, and I was like, it's so bizarre, but I know that people think our gut is sort of our second brain in our body. And I was like, when we empty our minds out, we sort of have clarity because we haven't, put too much stuff into our brain. I was like, I wonder if our gut kind of functions the same way. If we haven't stuffed so much stuff into our gut, maybe it also gives us this sense of clarity and calm. I really liked it. I don't know if I could do it. Yeah, I love eating way too much, but I don't know if I could do it often. But I will say, if anyone watching is interested, give intermittent fasting a shot. You might find that it gives you a lot of energy. That's what I found.
Well, you got a question already. I'm assuming this one is for you, not for me, because I think Ken knows that I am not on the keto diet. But the question is, are you on the keto diet?
You know what? I don't know that I have you done the keto diet. I don't know that I know the keto diet or know what it actually is.
It's similar to Atkins, except that it's a version of a low carb diet, but it's
Okay.
way way more high fat. Like,
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I haven't tried it. I
okay,
I I feel like I've never really gotten on any of the diets, and even the ones that are good and work. Ever since like what was it, the Atkins diet, then it was the South Beach diet. There's always so many
the
diets coming and
Mediterranean
going.
diet.
And it just so many different diets keep coming and going that I'm like, is any of this real? What is the? I just wish there was like one answer to like these life questions, which I know there's never one answer, but there are some things you wish there was just like, just eat like this. And I am the type of person it's like, okay, I'll just do that. Just tell me what is the one thing.
Right. You have another question already about your comedy and your Southern roots.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's good to be liked. I appreciate that. My yeah, I think they influenced my comedy because I grew up in the church. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I grew up with my own interpretation of what the South is while I lived in the South for 23 years. Then I moved away and I moved to DC. I lived in New York. I lived in LA. And I saw other parts of the country, their interpretation of what the South is. But I think what's influenced maybe my comedy early on from being from the South is that I don't really have a Southern accent, and I think people's interpretation of me is that they can't really place where I'm from. But I have a great deal of pride of being from the South, as I think all Southerners do, because I think the rest of the country has this interpretation of who we are and what we are. That I think in my comedy I want to try to explain that or expand their minds and show them that much like a Southern accent, how there are 20,000 versions of a Southern accent. I want to be like, yeah, there's 20,000 flavors of what the Southeast region of the United States is. And so, yeah, I try to bring that out of my comedy to where if anyone knew I was from the South, I don't want it to be typical or cliche or stereotypical. I want it to be kind of a different take or a different view.
Awesome. So, you grew up in the Catholic Church in the South. That sounds very similar to this guy I met one time by the name of Robbie.
That's exactly right.
So,
Yes,
so,
art imitating life.
yeah, definitely. I mentioned that Rory is a comedian. He's the star of Robbie, which is now streaming on
That's right.
Comedy Central on the YouTube channel as well as on the website. So, what was it like taking part of your life, probably not all of it, but part of your life and putting it out there on the small screen for everyone to see?
I think it felt great. I think my whole life I've thought about like different ideas for shows or characters, and I think we as artists we always come back to um, the thing that we know and the thing of who we are. For some reason, when we think of these artistic ideas, I feel like we we get away from that, and I don't know why that is. I'm naturally, I think bigger and things that aren't me and aren't places that I've been in terms of like a show idea or something I would shoot, and then I always come back to being like, oh well, how did I grow up? Why don't I think that's a story? For some reason, I think all of us don't live our lives thinking, oh, these are stories because we watch other people's stories. We kind of
Mm-hmm.
forget our own. So it felt good to like put a small portion of that and a slightly altered version of that on TV in some sort of there's no trauma to it, but it still felt very cathartic to somehow put yourself out there a little bit, or at least take this thing out of your brain and get to watch it and go, oh, that's some of that is planted in a reality that I grew up in, now being highly fictionalized, but um, yeah, it's really cool. It's cool to see it.
You have another question. And Beverly, I saw your question. Rory was raised in Greenville, South Carolina.
That's right. Yes. So not that far from Atlanta, about 2 hours.
How do you
Pros and
drive? Wait a minute. You said two. How do you drive?
I don't know. Right now I'm wondering if I drive too fast or too slow. I don't know.
No, you're right. It is about two because I was just thinking. I was thinking about Charlotte, but Charlotte is about three and a half, three on a really good day. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. So it is about two.
Yeah. Three. Yeah. 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 Two coming from Greenville. My sister came down to see us when we were shooting the show, and she told me that she had gotten down there in an hour 15, and I was like, Jessica, you can't be you can't be going
Ooh, wow.
hour 15. I was like, Atlanta's exciting, but come on, no place is that exciting.
Yeah, that was quick. That was
Yeah.
quick.
Pros and cons of being the lead of a show. I think the pro is getting to be be so active in the storytelling process that there is this sort of fear of going, well, if people really don't like this character, then they won't watch this show because there's so much of this character in the show. And there that sounds like a con, but it is kind of a pro in terms of having this sort of personal challenge that I kind of liked and welcomed was, well, let's see if I can take this character who on paper is very unlikable and there really isn't anything about him that's like, he has very tiny specks of redeeming qualities, but mostly it's this annoying guy. And I think part of me was like, can I play this guy in such a funny way that you sort of forgive how much of an idiot he is and how full of himself he is to be entertained by him. And that's also a testament to you and to the other actors on the show. If the audience can't if the audience can't go, oh, I understand all these other characters and what they're having to deal with and how they put on a smile to deal with it, if people can't believe that or buy into it, then I think as a show it wouldn't work. And that's a testament to, I think, the whole cast. Everybody really knew how to kind of fit into this role that we were all figuring out in real time. And then I would say the con of being the lead of a show is is sort of the same answer, that people tend to think that if you're the lead of a show, you're the entire, like if Dwayne The Rock Johnson has a bad movie, people think he wrote the movie and made the movie, and it's all, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a horrible person because this movie wasn't good, but they don't realize that it's so many other elements. And I think for this show, a con was, I haven't stepped up to the plate yet, or had the chance yet to see if I would get blamed for things not working, or whatever. So I would say the con is the pressure during the production. Um, but I was lucky. I got to work with an amazing cast, an amazing crew, to where I had this trust in everybody, and I think people had trust in me. And I think it's hard to turn out a bad product when just the players are just that good. I think it's hard for it to be bad. How did I get discovered? That's a good question, and I also still wonder if I ever have. Um, I I feel as though that there was a time when Bo Burnham put me in his TV show on MTV, what feels like forever ago. Zach Stone is going to be famous, and then Bill Lawrence put me on his show Ground Floor shortly after that, and it kind of feels like those opportunities, um, people giving me those opportunities, kind of maybe fall into that term of being discovered. But I think what I like most about this business is you can always sort of feel like you haven't been discovered. You always feel like you have something else you haven't done, a role that you haven't. I still want to show people that I think I can do drama, but I don't even know that I can do drama. But it's like, it's that thing, you still want to be discovered that you're capable of doing that, or doing a different form of stand-up comedy night after night. So I would credit those two, Bill Lawrence and Bo Burnham, for sure, early on, for discovering, but it's an ongoing process. Well, how do
So which
you
one,
feel like that? What are your thoughts on that, though? That whole like
in terms
discovery
of being
sort of thing.
discovered?
Yeah, that's sort of
Well,
like getting your chance, and knowing what you're capable of, and someone spotting that.
yeah, I think it is pretty interesting, because if you would have asked me 7 years ago if I would be doing comedy, I'd be like, no, I'm a dramatic actress. And then I got a chance to do a sitcom in 2014 with Tyler Perry, and I was like, oh, I like
Yeah,
this. This feels good. There's a rhythm to comedy. There's the timing and all of that good stuff that some people would argue even makes it more challenging than drama. So I agree with what you're saying, that oftentimes you're still figuring it out. Like, can I do this? I've done some drama, I've done comedy, but am I ready for action? I don't know. I've never
right.
had
Yeah,
that
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. It's almost like you feel like you're on this ongoing thing of discovering yourself, where you step into something like any job, someone
Yeah.
gives you a little more responsibility, and it's terrifying. And then you start to do it, and you realize you're very capable of doing
Yeah.
it.
Right. I
Yeah.
think this is a follow-up question to that being
Yeah.
discovered
How
from
did you get
Ken.
the show? The show was born out of, I would say the very first root of the show was me having a stand-up act that I had become very bored with. And one night at Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here in Los Angeles, I decided to go on stage and do a character, which was kind of just this mix of a bunch of family members, and like I think a little bit of Steve Spurrier. And I just tried to take all these people, and I was like, how would all these people talk, or who would they be? And I just did my same jokes. I didn't have any new jokes. And I kind of discovered that I really liked being this guy, because for some reason all the words just made sense when I got into this guy's bones or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is really fun. And so I would do it as a stand-up character randomly, all the time. And my buddy Scott Moran, who's a co-creator of the show, at one point he was like, you should pitch that character in a show for something, another of like, that's how that whole like, oh yeah, pitch what, I already know this character, why have we never tried to create a world for it?
Hmm.
And So we went to Gary Sanchez Productions, and they got on board with it, and they said, let's figure out his life. And we just kind of went down the road of putting the story together, putting the characters together, putting the situation together. Very early on, we knew that we wanted him to find out that he had a son, a 10-year-old son from a past relationship. We knew that we wanted that to be the spark that starts the fire of the whole thing uh, very early on. But we didn't know in what world he fits into basketball, or what his goals were, or what the other characters were, what the town was. When we kind of started putting that stuff together, we went out like you do. You pitch it to everybody, and Comedy Central, they really liked it. They really liked the idea, and they really liked that it was different from what they usually make. And so from there, it just kind of, snowballed, and all the way up until, a week and a half ago, it finally getting out. It finally getting out to people. It's been like a 2.5 year process. So anyone tells you that Hollywood moves quickly is lying to your face.
Well, I've heard stories, especially when it comes to feature films, people who've
Yeah.
had a story, it's gotten accepted, and, it's 10 years before it actually begins production. It's been in pre-production. There was one actor attached to it, and then, something happened. Either that actor got a bigger
Someone falls
project,
out. Yeah.
right? And so now you gotta, find another actor, and everyone has to be on board with that new actor, and producers leave and they come back and
Yeah.
sing song and dance.
It's a group effort. It's like any group efforts. Anytime a group gets together to make something, you know, everybody's picturing something in their mind, but collectively it's impossible that the product would ever be any of those things that people individually pictured. And it just kind of becomes that mashup of what everybody kind of had if everybody just brings their A game. But because of all that I just said in those sentences, that's a slow process, because all of those ideas require someone to sign checks and give people money to go bring it to fruition, and that takes a lot of trust. So that part can take a lot of time for sure.
In terms of what you get from each medium, how would you describe the differences between, you're doing comedy, you're doing stand up, and, you're shooting a show like Robbie?
Yeah, it's interesting. They're all gratifying, but it's all different types of gratification, and it all comes at different speeds of gratification. And I think Robbie really taught me that the gratification, while you're making it, you have to release yourself of the expectation and the gratification of what's to come. If it ends up working, and you cut the scenes and you go, oh, we actually made something interesting or watchable, and you have to go, oh, this gratification has to come from today. I am shooting a scene with Angela, and we are gonna have fun, and we're gonna walk away from it feeling like we did it, and hope that us feeling like we did it fits into that longer chain of feeling that way every time you shoot something else. So it's interesting, because there is such a huge, immense uh, amount of joy when it finally comes out. For instance, Robbie being out now and getting a lot of positive feedback and people watching it feels incredible. And it also validates kind of the idea that we had from the beginning, to know like, oh, this is a good idea. This is an entertaining, interesting idea. To know that we put all the pieces in place in the right way to actually pull it off. It's overwhelmingly gratifying, just kind of in a continued sort of buzz in my mind about it. But stand up is instant. It is almost, we're talking about oven and the grill versus the microwave. The stand up will get you that Boston Market Salisbury steak in 4 minutes. But if you got to put it in the oven, you're going to wait 30 minutes on that Salisbury steak from Boston Market. And stand up is, I mean, also you get to find out in an instant if the thing you thought was funny and good actually is, by a group of strangers who tell you, right away. They either laugh or they don't laugh, and it can be joyful, and it can be heartbreaking at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel free to? I absolutely do. Oh, I should probably maybe read that question out loud, or is that visible to everybody?
It's visible to everybody. I
Oh,
took it
okay,
away,
yeah.
but yeah, it is visible to
That's
everybody.
that's a great question, because I personally feel like that is the stand up comedy. The spoken word is, um, I don't want to say it's one of the last places of just absolute freedom, and you pay the consequences of what you think or what you say. I don't think it's the last place. I think that actually exists in all mediums of art, but I know that a lot of times stand up can be on the chopping block as to people saying something or joking about something. I personally come from a place of, whatever jokes you have, tell the jokes that you have, but don't live in this world of shock. If you say something that is extremely offensive, don't be shocked if it offends people. That you knew what you were saying, you knew why you said it, you knew why you joked about it. I am not the person to tell you not to do it. The crowd will do that. The public's opinion will do that. Robbie coming out on TV, if we ever get to make more of those episodes, I mean, that's going to rely on the public's opinion of this thing that we made ultimately. And I feel that way in stand up for sure. There are so many comics that have made jokes about stuff that I know is for sure very offensive, and it's made me laugh. And I look at it and I go, does that mean I'm a horrible person because I don't really control what I laugh at? But then you just look at it and you go, it's too hard to create such a strong line of, well, you can say this or you can't say this, because there's also how people say it, and there's also how people joke about it, and it's also where you think they're coming from, because a lot of times they might be coming from a sarcastic place, and they almost have to fully execute the joke. I think when you see a comedian that says something that kind of jars you, if you can step back and if you can think, are they saying this because there's actually something else they're really trying to say? That the thing you think they might be really trying to say, use that to determine if you think what they said is offensive or not. If you go, I think what they're trying to say actually is a horrible thing, then it's like, well, then maybe they're a horrible person. But if you step back and you go, oh, I think that joke was to get me to pay attention to this other point they're trying to make, I would never want to eliminate that kind of art, because I think it's so beautiful. I think it can be beautiful. What advice would I give to somebody who wants to shop an idea but doesn't live in LA? That's a very good question. I wish I knew that, because then I would also not live in LA. I in all honesty, I pitched this show to be shot in Atlanta because I was like, oh, and maybe if we get a couple seasons, me and my family just move to Atlanta because I love Atlanta. But I don't know. I would say, from my limited knowledge in the entertainment business, at least on the acting side of things, I would say that LA and Atlanta actually seem to be sort of the two places, at least in the United States. But I don't have any experience in Atlanta in terms of going around and pitching ideas. It definitely starts with who you know. Everything is who you know. It's all the cliches are right. Right place, right time, who you know, fake it till you make it. All of those are applicable and real and accurate. I would say in Atlanta, it's probably about finding a production company. I mean, we all know Tyler Perry has a kingdom out in Atlanta that is just massive. But I couldn't tell you how you get to step into that kingdom to pitch an idea, because I don't know how it works there. But it's a matter of finding places like his production company or others, and pitching them an idea to develop first, and then they should have the connections that take you to the other places, like in our situation, Comedy Central, or your NBCs or CBS, that kind of thing.
Speaking of relationships, I was, as working on the show and looking at the players who are working behind the scenes, and doing a little bit of internet stalking. I saw that so many of you all had worked together before, you and Scott and Anthony. You
Yeah.
mentioned, having those right relationships. How long have you been developing the relationships that you have for Robbie?
So I've known Scott for about 14 years. So he and
Wow.
I have worked on, different comedy stuff forever. Nothing as big as this show, but different stuff forever. And he's the director of my specials, and will be the director of future stand-up specials, even if he stops. Even if he decides one day to stop doing that, I will force him out to direct mine. But yeah, someone like Anthony, it was new to work with him, and
Okay.
we had chosen him to be the showrunner. Of course, him being willing to do it, but we had chosen him because his reputation is so great, and he has been a showrunner on so many successful shows, and people know of him, and his work ethic is very clear. It definitely was very clear to me right away as soon as I started working with him. But yeah, it's kind of a great thing, establishing those relationships and fostering it, and trying to show those people that you also have a work ethic, and you also have a drive and goals and motivation as well, because that's kind of what represents you in terms of other people wanting to work with you. But I would say, in my opinion, fostering relationships, and I just said this today. I genuinely believe that if you really work hard and you are a good person, the right people are going to notice. Good people, good energy finds good energy. It just happens. So it's a matter of, you know, just showing that you have that work ethic, which I've had to learn. I've had to learn how to do that.
Yeah. You got another question from Edwin.
That is also a very good question. My main question is, when is quarantine over? I don't know, because that particular part of my job means going into basements with roughly 200 to 300 strangers who are all right on top of each other at these tables. And yeah, now that right now saying that sounds absurd. It sounds so absurd to be that close, to people right now. But I don't know. I think for me in particular, with my daughter and my wife, I would have to play it very carefully, just because it involves getting on planes, going to airports, being around a lot of people, and then being in these comedy clubs. Today, that truly scares me. That's my home, and it truly scares me of when that setting will feel safe again, because all it takes is one person in that group that has just not been careful or hasn't been tested. I really am curious how it will all open back up again. I imagine, at least in our business, it's going to take massive testing, and ample testing, very available. And then I think, starting once that's available, I think at least the film television world can slowly start to open up again, because it can be controlled. The people there are in a controlled setting. Comedy club is just anybody coming from their house, and you have no clue who's taken it seriously, or who's been in contact with who. It's just so many question marks.
Yeah. I actually got a call about doing a play in, I believe, July. And,
Yeah.
2, 3 weeks ago, it was like, okay. But as we are, continuing to see changes in states where they are beginning to reopen, I'm really wondering, is July going to be realistic? And I don't know if the producer was joking or not, but he's like, oh yeah, everyone's going to get a mask with their ticket. And I was like, okay, he's a funny guy. So is he being funny, or are they really going to give a mask to everyone who buys a ticket? I'm not sure.
Yeah, wait, where did you say the play would be?
It's going to be right outside of Atlanta in Marietta.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because at least the cast for a play you wouldn't be massive, I wouldn't think.
No.
And then you're kind of like, well, if they're all in quarantine to start, and then you can confirm everyone is okay, then you can confirm everyone can get on stage, and it's going to be fine. It really is, when you start to bring those audiences in, to be like, all right, is everybody chill? Is everybody good?
Right.
Did everybody behave?
Yeah.
Was everybody behaving?
It is, it is a something to consider, even with a cast, because, unlike film and television, and a lot of what I'm hearing in terms of rumblings and how things will begin to open up is that some of the cast and crews may be actually quarantined during filming.
Yeah.
That works, but I don't know how you do that with a play
I don't know how
because
you do
of
it with
the
the
type of
play.
rehearsal play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you could maybe, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you do it with the, that's a great point. I don't know how you do it with the cast because that's just how plays function. It's like you show up, you do the rehearsal, and everyone's back home. Um, and then also that added element of an audience is that those are so many variables that you're just like, you can't, that you can't control. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, if at some point miraculously there's a vaccine sooner than later, I feel like the whole world will have this incredible, huge sigh of relief and be like, okay, now we can kind of trust. But yeah, right now it's almost like haven't, if you can quarantine with everybody who's been tested, then you can have a great deal of trust. As soon as you bring that
yeah,
audience in, you're like, I don't know any of you.
right. And if any of you are sitting under an AC unit or all that stuff, that
Yeah,
just
exactly.
seems uncontrollable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind
So
of scary.
yeah, it is. It's unpredictable. I think that's the best way to say it, not knowing
Yeah.
exactly how this is going to play out. And even thinking about the summer, whether or not this could be seasonal, and come, I don't know, July, when it's really
Yeah.
really hot, and it's almost like the flu season, and it's I guess we won't know until we get there, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I've
been a
wondered
debate.
that too with the idea of it being seasonal and people saying it's going to lay dormant and then it'll be back in like the fall. It's like, oh God, so does that mean we can all be contracting it during the summer? Like, what are we talking about? Like, how hardcore do we have to live this summer? Yeah, we'll see.
We will definitely see. So question for you. Someone we will definitely see. Uh,
Yeah.
so someone who hasn't, I don't know who these people would be, but let's just say someone hasn't heard of the show, Robbie. What would you say about the show in terms of describing the comedy?
I would describe it as very digestible. I think it's very easy to fly through the episodes. The weight of the circumstances is never so heavy that it feels like it's hard to jump into a new episode because we it just never gets that heavy. It's very silly. That's meant to exist in a very real world. We wanted the camera to really make it feel very serious and real, while the stories and the characters were just completely off. And especially Robbie being a moron. Yeah, I would say it's digestible comedy. That's what I tell people to try to get them to check it out. I say that too because me personally, when I watch stuff, if it is a lot to deal with and a lot to digest and a lot to absorb, it takes me a little bit longer to get to that next episode to watch more episodes because I'm like, all right, I gotta cycle this through first. And that's what I kind of like about our show is it's definitely the type of show that I like to watch, and I think that's kind of what everybody who has the chance to make a show, it's like definitely make the show you like to watch. There's a good chance, a lot of people might agree with you. They like watching the same sort of things.
That's so nice. I never thought about digestible as a term that using for comedy,
For
but no, but I
it's
follow
true,
it.
yeah.
I follow. Haven't seen the show. I follow exactly what you mean. So I have to use that word. I'll swipe that one from you.
Yes.
So
I feel
what's
like
next
everything
for
I've
you?
talked about is so dietary. I started with intermittent fasting and now I'm talking about digesting television.
Well, it is. It's dinner time. That's what it is. Dinner time. You're
That's right.
hungry.
That's right.
You're
That's
hungry. That's what it is. It's dinner time. It's exactly what's going on. So what's next for you? I mean,
right.
outside of waiting for the quarantine to be lifted and figuring out when you can actually get back into comedy clubs.
Yeah, myself and Scott have realized that we have actually a ton of footage of different shows and stuff since 2006. that we recently found on some hard drives and some tapes. And so we're kind of trying to beef up a YouTube page for me to post links so that people can see some, or clips so that people can see some stand up and stuff. But yeah, I shot a stand up documentary back in 2018 that we're now trying to get out potentially on Amazon at some point soon. I might take some of that audio from that documentary where I did 6 shows and turn it into an album. So it's really, right now we're really trying to find like, oh, what is stuff that we've made that we just haven't really thought about that we can use in these other circumstances. And yeah, we're getting creative about it. Outside of that, I would love it if somebody bought a second season of Robbie and wanted us to make more. That would be the absolute best, because we could start working on the scripts now. But I think it's talking to representatives, managers, and agents about what could be the next acting thing, the ongoing cycle, pandemic or not. The big who are we talking to, and what do we think the future could be.
Well, I know it is getting close to dinner time, so I'm not going to keep you much longer, but we do have one more question that just
Yeah.
popped up from Edwin, who's a
Who was
great
the last
supporter.
person that made you laugh out loud? That's a great question, just because I feel like I haven't seen anybody outside of me and my wife joking with each other, and some friends that we see from the porch. I recently watched. This is sort of a group effort of something that made me really laugh. But my friends Corey Lacosic and Donnie Devanian and Rob Boardman and Frankie Quinones, they have a show on TBS streaming that's called The Dress Up Gang, but they made a sketch video called Cute House. And I don't know if maybe you've seen it. It's sort of starting to spread around to people, but it really made me laugh so hard, because they are so funny. They have such a weird flavor of comedy that they make. But I would recommend people check out that video, Cute House. And if you'd like
Cute
it, check
house.
out their episodes of shows that are on TBS's website. And then outside of that, watch The Last Dance. Oh my God. What a documentary.
Yeah, and I'm a little biased, in Jay's a Tar Heel, but yeah, it's definitely uh, pretty amazing. The
Unreal.
story.
I know. Yes. So unreal. That
Um,
was our Sunday nights. So sad to see those Sunday nights now go away. That reminded me of being a kid and watching like America's Funniest Home Videos or something with the family. Yeah. That's
well,
what
also,
Last Dance became.
I felt like I got a little bit of my sports fix. I'm a big sports person, so I got
Yeah.
like it's been gone, and I've watched a few replays of the 2005 NBA championship. A lot of that stuff is replaying,
Right.
but that felt like, ooh, Sunday night. Everyone
Yeah.
around the country, or so many people, you could actually see it trending on Twitter. We were all watching the same thing at the same time,
Yeah.
so it felt a little normal again, just a little
Those
bit.
ratings had to be through the roof. Yeah.
Oh
It
yeah.
was phenomenal. Yeah.
It was good. It was definitely good. Well, Rory, thank you so much for taking the time to
Yeah.
speak with me tonight. And I'm excited about the possibilities for Robbie and a possible season two. I have your Twitter and your Instagram scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. Is
Oh, yeah.
your YouTube the same thing? Is it the
That is
same?
a great question, because we just pushed it out today, actually. So
Okay.
I'm really good at promoting myself to where I don't know what what the links to anything is. But yeah, if you go to my Instagram, if you are interested, I think you should be able to get there from there, because I pushed it out today. So it would be a very recent post. But yeah, also thank you so much for having me on. This is great. It's so great to see
This
you
was
again. It's
fun.
been it's
Good.
been so long. It's been a year,
It,
really.
it has, oh my gosh, it has been. It's been a
Yeah.
whole year. Wow. Time does fly. Definitely.
Yeah. Not anymore. Not since quarantine, but yeah, it used to fly. It used to fly really fast.
Yeah, it's been hard to keep up with the days, like not knowing what day it is or what hour, and
Right.
yeah, even trying to put the to-do list together. I've been working really hard to keep a calendar and a schedule, and it's just, yeah, just hadn't
Yeah.
been working that well.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
because,
I
yeah.
relate all too well.
Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, you too. And thanks for the questions, everybody. Yeah, have a good
Thank
one.
you. You too.
Bye.
Well, big shout out to Rory for taking the time to talk to us tonight. Again, Robbie is currently streaming on both YouTube as well as the Comedy Central website. And if you didn't get the hints that we were dropping, just to make it clear, yes, yours truly does have a recurring role as Sugar Stevens on Robbie. And as always, that's it for today's Angela Ray Show. Just want to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change.